So let's practice our roses borrowing, I should say, from some sumie techniques. So practice rose, practice rose, practice roses all over the place. Here's one on sumie paper. Here's another one on watercolor paper. And I've shown you the sumie ones, so practice, practice, practice. But we're going to compare working on dry paper, dry watercolor paper, with watercolor brushes and compare it to working on damp watercolor paper. So let's get the damp watercolor paper out. Got a piece of damp paper here, and you see it's you know, if I hold on to it, it's just, you know, a little bit moist. I wet both sides and I just let it soak in a little bit, and this will possibly replicate some of the softness you get on sumie paper. So let's try it. I will use a regular watercolor brush because maybe that's what you have. And I've got some cadmium red, I've got some permanent rose. As always, we start the rose with a little spiral. So I'm starting with a little, see the spread from the damp paper? So that could be good, or it could be too much. Have your paper towel ready. A little bit of spreading could be beautiful. Then I'm going to bring my petals down in sort of the cup shape of a rose, and then work my way around. And that's probably all you need. If it's too much spreading for you, you could turn, I'm going to turn some of those spreads into other petals, and then the rose becomes fuller, but then I have to keep going if I do that. But that works as well. A couple of little verticals in there might help, and I can blot my brush and pick up where I might want it to be lighter, like right here. Just a little lighter mark right there, I think will make this look like it's turning. It has spread quite a bit over here. I'll just blot up just a little bit. Again, a little bit of spread is nice because that's what it does on the sumie paper. So it's a little different, of course. Watercolor, we don't have to use all the sumie techniques. We can actually get our watercolor techniques working for us here. I'm picking up just a little. Sometimes a little brush hair gets in. Either that or that's a long gray hair. Yes, I think it's a long gray hair. We'll get that out of there. So this nice soft rose. It's okay if I've got a little red on my brush as I dip into the green, because red is the opposite of green, and it will give me a more muted green. So I want to get just maybe a little bit of a sepal showing. I'm just using my brush very lightly. Of course, a stem. A little bit wider at the top is always good. Just a little bit. See what I'm doing? And I'll get a little bracket for the leaf. And then I'm going to try to get the leaf done with just maybe 2 strokes each. One on one side, one on the other. Sometimes you can do it with 1 stroke. I can get, I can put a little thorn on there if I want to. A couple little thorns. And I'll get a leaf coming up from the other side. A very light touch with the brush, and push and try and get that width of the brush. I can do it in two sides and maybe leave a little white. I can try and get sort of a leaf that looks like it's turning away from me by having those two sides there. And then I can have one coming down here. And let's see if I can get it a little more pointed and like that. So, happy practice rose making. So try your paper wet, try your paper dry, and see what you like. The other side of this paper might be drier, and I could do a comparison for you. Let me slip a piece of paper under this just to catch that wet one. Since it's practice, I don't mind using the paper on the other side. Otherwise, you know how I am. I don't like that. Okay, so here the paper is drier, so it's not going to spread as much, and it's letting me do my little spiral. And now for the first petal. So I'll try this time something a little different. And again, this is more watercolor technique than Sumier, but it's borrowing from Sumier. So get that. Let's see. Notice that I'm kind of circling my brush just to see what will give me the best effect. I'm kind of imagining what the brush will do as it comes around. And up here. And there's often one that kind of rests in the middle, at the bottom, not always. I want to pull this dark down here a little bit, and I want to pull this dark down. And I think I'll leave that. I kind of like the crisp up here with the soft. So this paper on this side of the paper is like a little bit drier. The watercolor paper I bought, you can use both sides. If it's a really good watercolor paper, it doesn't always work, but on the cheaper ones you can get away with it. Only do that for practice. I'm breaking my rule though, because if the practice one comes out really good, you have a painting on the other side. So I really don't go by that, but here we go. Here's a little sepal. It's spreading, but I'm going to let that spread. I think it'll be okay. And get a stem in there. Get a little bracket for the leaf. Let the leaf come out. Get my two sides to the leaf happening. Again, I can get a leaf going, sort of turning away from us here. And then a leaf here. Maybe just that one stroke will work. Maybe it needs just a little tip of green that will spread. And it's okay that, this doesn't look attached, that doesn't look attached, because it's all going to look good. I'm not happy with that spread, so I'm going to blot that, and then we've got our rose back. Since it's a watercolor, however, I think that we need to get some of this watery look in here. So I think I might fuss with it just a tad by having see that color? That's what I want. Having that brush blotted, and it's going to help me get that color into this section like that. And I think we've got it now. Happy painting!